How's it going there, folks? I'm Quinn of Snazzy Labs, and this is the video review of the Fanny Wang on-ear DJ2001 headphones, which retail for $249 US, with an additional $50 upcharge if you want to customize the colors, as I have done. Now, just because they're $250 retail does not mean that's actually what you're going to be paying, and they can be had for as cheap as $150 on places like Amazon.com. So the price behind these is very, very low considering what they bring to the table in terms of design and sound quality. Now, this is a tough market to compete in because for $150, you can have some amazing headphones like the Audio-Technica ATH M50s, like the Shure SRH 840s, and some excellent headphones with some superior sound. So when I got these, I was a little bit worried. I wondered, okay, the design is nice, but does the build quality and the sound match what is offered in the same price range? And I think that it has, and I'm going to talk about this in this review. Now, these headphones come with this case, which genuinely sucks. I really, really do not like this. It only comes in white, which gets really dirty, and it's not that really good at protecting. It's not very rigid, and so I didn't feel like my headphones were that much safer in the case than they were out of the case, and so I usually just don't even use the case. Now, I do have 2 extra AAA batteries, which you're probably going to need, which we're going to talk about in a minute, a little bit of a downside with these headphones, but for the most part, we have the headphones. Now, the headphones themselves are strikingly similar to the Beats by Dre. I'm not going to say that they don't look very similar because they do. In fact, they're almost identical. And Monster thought so as well because they sued Fanny Wang last year, did not win the lawsuit, and Fanny Wang continued to manufacture headphones. But the headphones themselves look very, very nice. Now, there is the logo right here. There is the wavy style all around the headphones. And of course, you have this matte design style. The Beats by Dre use a glossy finish, which I don't like. It picks up fingerprints, picks up scratches, not present in the Fanny Wangs. Now, the build quality is very, very good, far superior to the Beats by Dre. I said, you know, the Beats have pretty good build quality, and I got chastised through the roof on my unboxing video. Apparently, they haven't been as good for you as they have been for me, but the Beats by Dre have been relatively durable when I had owned them, and that was one of the pros to them. Now, these headphones are the most durable headphones I've ever used, period. They seriously are nuts. I mean, look at this. The headphones stretch like nobody's business, and they don't really give any stress. I mean, look at that. That is some amazing stretch, and the headphones don't give up. I've been doing this for weeks, seeing if they'd break, seeing if they'd loosen. They don't. They stay tight, they stay well together, and they're not going to give you any problems. As they haven't given me any problems. Now, what you're also going to find in the headphones is some seriously good sound, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. However, what I do want to mention really, really quickly before we get into the sound section is how they feel on your head, and that is something that's very important to me. Now, the weight in these is exponential. These are some of the heaviest headphones I've ever used, and usually when I use heavy headphones, I don't like them because the majority of the weight is clamped against your head. Headphones like the Grotto SR80s, other headphones out there, they don't use this headband right here, and they clamp the side of your ears. Now, the Fanny Wang DJ2001 don't clamp your ears in the sense that they don't do it to make it hurt, but they do clamp your ears. But they have this kind of balanced system. A lot of the weight is rested on this main headband, but not so much that the headband becomes uncomfortable, and a lot of the weight is rested on your ears, but not so much that it becomes uncomfortable. These ear pads right here are plush. I think they're pleather. I don't think it's real leather, but they do feel very, very nice. They're breathable, so I don't get sweaty or anything else. They don't get itchy like a lot of other headphones. They're very, very nice, and they're very soft, but at the same time, they're kind of rigid. So although they are soft and although they are comfy, they hold the headphones tightly against your ears without making it fatiguing or stressful or painful. I could listen to these for hours on end without any discomfort whatsoever. One of the comfiest headphones I've ever used despite their intense weight. Now, I'm also going to talk about the cable really quickly before we move to the sound. There's not a whole lot going on here. You have this male end, which plugs into your source, your MP3 player, your laptop, your iPod, your iPhone, your Zune, what have you, anything. And then right here, you have a duo jack, so you can share music with your friends. They plug in their headphones to yours. You can listen to the same music. Kind of cool. As we go down to the other end of the headphone, we see that there is the other 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. This is removable, which is nice. And the cable itself is very, very nice. It doesn't tangle. It doesn't get caught. It's strikingly similar to the Beats by Dre studio cable, which I've always very much liked. Now, unfortunately, this little clicker right here is where things go south. I've never been a big fan of these clickers as it is, and this one probably is not as good as even most. Now, you do have a volume up and a volume down for your iPhone and your iPod, and you do have this center button, which play, pause, fast forward, rewind, stuff like that. Now, these buttons work fine, but this center button always triggers these other two up and down volume buttons. So a lot of the time I'll press pause and it'll bump my volume up, or I'll press pause and it'll bump my volume down, or both. Or weird things happen, and I really, really don't like that. Additionally, this is really, really easy to trigger. So when I was running, I'd oftentimes bump the volume against something and volume would turn up and get loud or get soft or somewhere in the middle. I didn't like this clicker, and I wish it was not really there at all if it wasn't designed well, and I felt like this was the biggest downside of the headphones. On the other side, we have a microphone, which again is nothing to really praise at all. I've heard better microphones and headphones that are half the price, even a third of the price of these, and the microphone in here is nothing spectacular. Yes, it will suffice for phone calls, but it's not really useful for other than that. Now, I'm not going to rat on just this little controller because it's a very, very little part of it. However, I do want to talk about the sound, which for me is almost everything. Now, the sound in these is very, very nice. There are 3 modes. There's off, there's on, and there's bass boost. So yes, there are batteries included in this, and yes, it does have its own preamp. So plugging it into an amplifier versus an MP3 player aren't going to really change the quality of the sound. They're pretty flat, they're self-driven, and so because of that, they're very versatile. You don't need a really powerful amplifier or a really powerful music player to get these to sound good. They sound good with anything, including a 6th generation iPod Nano. Now, there are 2 batteries in here, and this is where things go south. I can only really get about 36 to 48 hours worth of listening time. Yes, that's a lot, but unless you have rechargeable batteries, you're going to be popping batteries out for at least how much I listen to music once every 2 weeks, even sometimes less than that, which is kind of annoying. I really didn't like the way that was designed. I wish maybe they would include rechargeable batteries, but that is not the case, and you will have to be aware of that when you buy the headphones, because that's something that is a little bit of a shortcoming, if you ask me. Now, let's talk about these 3 settings and the sound differentiation between the 3. Without this, it's pretty comical. There's a lot of headphones that are like, yeah, we don't run without batteries, and this is one of them. The Beats by Dre require you to have batteries. These do not, but these do not sound good without batteries. Yeah, you could get by. Yeah, you can actually hear something, but it's not good, and it's almost so torturous of a sound that it's not even worth listening to. So that's not a very good start. What about the other 2 switches? This is where things get good. Really good. Now, this first switch is on, okay? Now, the on switch offers some of the best sound in this price range. Genuinely. No bias included whatsoever. This first switch, not the bass booster switch, but this first switch is amazing, and the response is incredibly flat. For rock, for alternative rock, for classic rock, for jazz, for pop, this was fantastic. Not even just good, fantastic. The response was very, very nice. Trebles were nice, mids were nice and smooth, and the bass was there. It was present, but it wasn't overpowering. It wasn't even thumping, and I really, really loved this mode. I was able to get some seriously good listening out of these headphones. Is it as good as the Audio-Technica ATH M50s? Is it as good as the Shure SR-H 840? No, but it is very, very close. Very close, which was excellent because I hated to see such a well-built headphone and also think in the back of the mind, these headphones aren't going to match the sound quality of some of these other headphones. No, it's really good. In fact, it's so close that probably most people won't even be able to tell the difference. Now, the second mode is where things get a little bit crazy. This is the bass boost mode, and boy, is there a lot of bass. In fact, there's so much bass, it rattles your balls. I mean, really, this is a ton of bass. Now, unlike the bass that you find in the Beats by Dre Studio and a couple of other designer headphones where it's slow, it's muddy, it's trashy, this is a really nice bass. It's tight, it's never overpowering, but it's very, very present, and it never distorts. It performs very, very well, even with the quickest paced music, which is fantastic. Both of these modes were a great pleasure to listen to with dubstep, with electronica, with hip hop and rap. This is the switch I had it on for rock, classic rock, alternative, jazz, even classical music. This is where I had it, and it sounded very good. Again, is this going to be the best headphone for $150 to $200? Probably not. In terms of sound, you can get better sound out of the ATH M50. You can get better sound out of the Shure SR-H 840. But for a full grand scheme, absolute sound, these are fantastic. They work really, really well for every genre, and they're incredibly well built, which is something that I keep having to really, really like about these headphones. Build quality is absolutely vital in a pair of headphones, and Fanny Wang outperforms. These headphones have blown my mind. I'm incredibly impressed by them, and I can absolutely recommend them, even for $300. I'm Quinn of Snazzy Labs. If you like this video, consider subscribing, rating, commenting, and as always, stay snazzy. See you next week, guys.